Right, white to play. Pause the video straight away and see if you can come up with some plan, a way to defend this position. Because it's not looking particularly good for white, is it? Black's obviously got a massive space advantage. But yeah, pause the video and see if you can work out a way to defend. What's your plan? It's a game from 1983. I mean, I'll just go through how the game went and a couple of possible variations in it as well. So, I mean, I suppose the thing that White's got going on in their favour is that these pawns are fixed on dark squares. And I suppose at the moment, Black has no pawns fixed on dark squares, but Black just has a big space advantage. And although this pawn's fixed on a dark square, it is sort of really restricting the space of the white bishop. This bishop's nicely controlling this diagonal, and white's just sort of hemmed in by their own pawn, which is a bit of a clue as to what your defensive plan should have been. As pointed out immediately after the game, apparently, by the person playing black. You know, they kind of, at this stage, saw what white should have done. Thought, okay, this is probably heading for a draw. But was then relieved to see white just sort of try and just, hold on, basically. Bishop d2, king comes into e4, so this pawn is now sort of permanently fixed on a dark square. I mean, just look at this bishop and how few squares it has. So there's a combination of its own pawn fixed, kind of now, fixed on a dark square, and all right, this pawn's fixed on a dark square, but there's just nowhere for the bishop to go. Black just has so much control over the dark squares that we want our defending bishop to use. Anyway, so bishop e1, g5, and then at this point white played h4, which immediately fixes a pawn on a dark square, and it is probably going to become another weakness. But attempts to not do that. Black then fixes another pawn on a dark square, and I went through in that video of disobedient pawns. White's very close to being in zugzwang here. So, for example, if bishop e1, the black bishop can come to b2, bishop back to f2, bishop c1, bishop g1 holding on to the e3 pawn, g4, bishop to f2, g3, another pawn in the dark square, but the white bishop's just got nowhere to go. How about that? King has to go to d2, bishop back to e5, king e2, bishop c3. So all these pawns are on dark squares, but black's just got complete control and white's bishop can go nowhere. So that was bishop e1. If bishop g1, bishop back to c7, bishop f2, we're going to swing the bishop round to this diagonal and attack the e-pawn. And yeah, as soon as the king moves, we've got f4 because that pawn's pinned. You can see this is just a disaster. So, I mean, that's why at this stage, white, I suppose, sensibly chose to stop black playing h4, even though it fixes their own pawn in the dark square, and black played g4. And again, we could have seen bishop f2 here, but white just runs out of space. Black's got to defend the g3 pawn temporarily. King moves, king back to e2, bishop e5. We've done a bit of a triangulation there. So it was just a triangulation needed because let's just explain that one actually. So the bishop's attacking this g pawn, and what we want is this position with white to move, because if white's to move here, if the bishop moves, then we're free to not worry about this g pawn. We can come back to f6 and attack h4 or win h4. And the king has no squares. The only square the king can go that doesn't sort of let the black king in straight away is d2, but that's why you want your bishop on e5, because you can check, pick up the bishop and win the e-pawn. So it's just a little triangulation. It doesn't really matter which squares black uses particularly, but just to get back to the same position with white to move. King d2 is obviously a disaster because of bishop c3 check, and then bishop d2, bishop f6. Winning the h-pawn, king to d2, and then, just push f4. I mean, only to defend the g-pawn, basically. King across, defend the g-pawn, release this bishop, and you can see it's just completely over. White's just got no space. So because of that, white stuck another pawn on a dark square. And I guess they're hoping for a fortress, but it's just not going to end well. Bit of manoeuvring around, and reasonably similar to the sorts of ideas we've already seen in the other variations. The f4 push, that's pinned, g3. White's just out of squares. How about that for a move, g3? White's bishop literally has no squares. It's just incredible, isn't it? Takes that with check, comes back, picks up the e-pawn. I mean, yeah, that was the actual game, and white finally resigned. So, I mean, lots of different variations there, and you could see sort of what happened. And you must have had these in your own games. I mean, I've certainly had games like that online where I've tried to sort of cling on to material. I've had no defensive plan whatsoever. My bishop's just got no space, and I just decide to sort of pretty much ignore that problem, and I get turned over, basically. So, you know, why not try something different? And yeah, and to my credit, I do occasionally sort of come up with plans along the lines of what white should have done in this game. I mean, you want to try and move this pawn to release this bishop and just give it a bit of space. I mean, if only just sort of the threat of coming round to attack these pawns is going to keep black on his toes. But it's not so good allowing the black king into e4 straight away. And in fact, e4 check, black's best move here, believe it or not, is the king takes e4 is fine. It's an advantage for black, but black's best move here is king d4, which is quite incredible, because the king's heading to take the b pawns. If white takes on f5, then king c3. I mean, this is sort of dirty engine stuff I'm looking at here, and bishop b2, then you take on e4, and obviously that bishop swap's completely useless to white, so they have to come back to, well, it's still the best move for the engine, but bishop there, f4, I mean, black's just a pawn up and coming through. But the better way of doing it, without allowing the king into e4, either immediately or through that clever bishop king d4 maneuver, what white should have done in the game was king d3. And we might see bishop c3, and then e4 check. That was the plan that we needed. F takes e4, king e2. And black's got nothing. It really is just all of a sudden, it's like it was that simple. It's just a barrier. There's no way for black to make inroads into the white position. I mean, if they try king d4, we can just go bishop e3 check, king back to d5, and immediately we can start attacking the a pawn. What else could black try? Maybe black could try bishop a1. That looks like a clever idea to get the king into c3, but then we can block king d4 straight away. By the way, if your defensive plan was to bring the king to d3 and upon bishop c3 offer the pawn ending, it is lost. It is a lost pawn ending, just so you know. Minus 35. Oh, the engine's changed its mind to a minus 5, but yeah, it is just a lost pawn ending. Well, this is an interesting bit. Pause the video. What would you play here? I mean, this is king and pawn endings rather than same colour bishops. But yeah, if you come into g3, you've just thrown away the win. The way to do it is to outflank and come and win the b pawn with king e4. There you go, you're going to win the b pawn. Obviously, that's completely gone. Checkmate in 16, apparently. So yeah, that's a barrier. This is the final theme in same colour bishops. After all the stuff we've covered, yeah, the barrier. So this one's black to move. Pause the video and decide what would you do here as black. So again, the game sort of went quite badly. I think this got into Dvoretsky's tragicomedy section. Black thought they were in a bit of trouble, and and played the sort of desperate d takes c4, just giving up the bishop on a8. You know, you get 2 pawns for it, but the white bishop just came back to e4. h5 was played, b5, king c4, and black resigned. It's just completely over. A very strange way for it all to end. But actually, black can draw this, thinking again about barriers. So we've got b takes c4, b takes c4, bishop c6. If bishop takes d5, then just bishop back to e8. And after c5 check, king to c7. And there's just no way for white to make progress. They can't really get their bishop in ahead of their king, and you know, whenever they're threatening to make inroads, the black can just cover it, basically. Obviously king e4, for example, bishop g6 check. Don't really want to do that. King f3, bishop f5. We can always just sort of keep control of those squares, or what could get tried here? Maybe bishop e6 is worth a try. But, I mean, there's bishop to c6, just stop the king coming to e4, or even king c6 is one of the moves suggested. So back in this position, you're going to lose a pawn, but at the end of it all, there's going to be a barrier. I mean, if it's taken with the pawn, you can just drop the bishop back, and it's even more of a barrier. It's even harder for white to get anywhere there. And finally, this is black to move. This was one of the exercises in the book, so you could pause the video and have a go at it. I mean, it's meant to be same coloured bishop endings, and we've got 4 bishops on the board at the moment, which sort of gives away what black's first move needs to be. I mean, it's obviously lateral thinking this, but what does black need to play so that it's in the right chapter? And but then, would you play that in a game? And I think I absolutely would. It's even sort of consistent with the rules as well. Like, we now have same coloured bishop endgame. I mean, this pawn is obviously very, very dangerous. But if you look at the other 2 pawns, they're fixed on light squares, and we have same coloured bishops, light squared bishops. So if we saw, for example, c7, that wasn't played in the game, but if it was, bishop back to b7. Black doesn't even need to collect that pawn immediately. Takes, king d5, king d7. That's a drawn pawn ending. Or if instead of pushing the c pawn, this is what actually happened in the game, king d3, the bishop just sort of came back to e6, sat on c8, and black left their king on e5 and just sort of did nothing, really. They've now put their king on d6, doing nothing. You can see that white just got nowhere. That's the king back to e5. And then just come and win the c pawn, but don't take that yet, because the white king will get in. But black just left their king on d6 and just did nothing. The engine's just saying 0.0 on all the possible lines. So I said that last one was sort of a bit easier, really. In fact, what else would you do there? I suppose the idea is you don't want to give this bishop up because it's blocking the c pawn, but as soon as you realise that white has no way through, and if this pawn was pushed, your bishop covers it, it's fine, isn't it? It's done. So swap bishops, barrier. So there's just 3 very simple positions, to be honest, and that was just the final theme in same colour bishops in the Dvoretsky same colour bishops chapter. If you're on the defence, See if there's a way you can sack a pawn, possibly give your bishop a bit of space. Don't think about the material so much, but look for that way in which you could set up a barrier that the opposing team... Got my words mixed up there. I should have just said opponent. I said opposing player, I suppose. And now I've forgotten the start of my sentence. Probably best just to leave it there. Let's leave it there.